A gate agent scans your boarding pass. The flight is full. She doesn't look up when she tells you there are no seats left. April 9, 2017. Chicago O'Hare International Airport. A United Airlines gate agent made an announcement that would cost the airline $800 million in reputational damage and legal settlements. The flight was overbooked. A passenger refused to leave. Security removed him. The video spread, but the practice itself, the one that created that moment, had been standard operating procedure in aviation for decades. The story doesn't begin at O'Hare. It begins with a mathematical problem that airlines discovered in the 1960s. No-shows, people who buy tickets and never board. The data was clear. On any given flight, a predictable percentage of passengers would fail to arrive at the gate. Airlines began tracking this number obsessively. 5%, 7%, sometimes more. Each empty seat meant lost revenue. A plane with 150 seats and a 6% no-show rate loses 9 seats worth of income on average. That wasn't acceptable to accountants. The solution was elegantly ruthless. Sell more tickets than seats exist. If you know 6% won't show, sell 106% of capacity. The math suggested that the plane would still be full and revenue would increase. Airlines didn't invent this. Hotels had done it for years, but applying it to aircraft was different. You can't oversell a hotel room by moving someone to the hallway. Here's where the system required a second mechanism. When overbooking was sold correctly, occasionally too many people would show up. The airline had more confirmed passengers than seats. They needed a way to remove people without causing a riot. The answer was compensation. Airlines began asking for volunteers to take a later flight in exchange for payment. A free ticket, a hotel voucher, cash. The idea was simple: make the incentive attractive enough that enough people would volunteer and the plane would operate at full capacity without force. For decades, this system worked. The incentives were usually sufficient. People would volunteer. They'd get a free ticket worth $300 or $400. They'd catch a later flight. The airline saved money on the original flight and made more money overall. Everyone profited, except the volunteers had actually been displaced, though they were compensated for it. But the math was always fragile. It depended on accurate no-show predictions. It depended on volunteers accepting compensation. And it depended on airlines not pushing the system too far. By the 2000s, airlines had begun reducing compensation amounts. They'd also begun making it harder to volunteer by offering less attractive incentives upfront. The no-show rate was also changing. Digital technology meant fewer people missed flights, reminders, mobile boarding passes, real-time notifications. The old 6 or 7% figure was dropping to 3, sometimes 2%, but airlines didn't reduce overbooking levels. They maintained or increased them anyway. The system became predictably unstable. More flights reached full capacity with all passengers present and ticketed. More people needed to be involuntarily denied boarding. Airlines had to force people off. The compensation rules existed, but they were often insufficient to make people willing to leave. Federal law set minimum compensation amounts for involuntary denials, but those minimums were often lower than the actual value of the flight. A passenger denied boarding on a $400 ticket might receive only $200 in compensation. The math still favored the airline. The United incident in 2017 was the moment the system's fragility became public. A passenger refused to leave. United called security. The passenger was dragged from the aircraft. Video appeared on every news outlet. The public suddenly understood what overbooking actually meant. After 2017, the compensation landscape shifted. Airlines increased voluntary compensation amounts. They made it less likely that passengers would need to be forced off. The incident didn't end overbooking. It simply made the system more expensive to operate. But the underlying math remained. Airlines still overbook. They still sell more seats than exist. The difference is that now they're more likely to find volunteers before resorting to involuntary removal. The system is the same, only the visible friction has changed. The practice exists in an odd legal and economic space. It's not illegal. Regulations allow it. Airlines argue it's necessary to maintain full planes and keep ticket prices competitive. Passengers argue it's a form of fraud, selling something you don't have. Both positions describe the same transaction. When you buy a plane ticket today, you're not purchasing a guaranteed seat. You're purchasing a right to board, contingent on not being one of the passengers selected for denial if the flight oversells. This distinction exists in the fine print. Most people don't read it. The system persists because it benefits airlines more than it harms passengers on average. Most people never get bumped. Those who do receive compensation. The airline collects revenue from overselling. The math still works. It works because most no-shows still happen, just at lower rates than in the 1960s. This is how modern consumer economics often functions. A system designed to solve a real problem, empty seats, evolves into something more complex. Technology changes the underlying assumptions. The system doesn't adapt, instead it tightens, and eventually someone films what it looks like when it breaks. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. Subscribe to uncover how everyday systems like this one quietly extract value from consumers, patterns you won't see until you know where to look. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.